I wanted to say something about Bhakti Glenn moving in, and also previously Bhakti Alex. And I was telling Glenn yesterday, because it's very, what is that, many thousands of men, one tries to understand the absolute truth, and those who try, hardly one knows me. Krishna says in the Gita, I'm paraphrasing, of course. Manushanam Sahasranam. So to have someone become a devotee of Krishna is an amazing thing. And Prabhupada tells a story about how we should feel. So many people aren't interested in Krishna consciousness. The vast 99.9%, as we'll read in the purport today, are fools and rascals and mudhas and dogs, hogs, camels and asses. And Prabhupada lays it on: Naradam, Mudha, Duskritina, Maya Pratigyana. So the rarity of finding someone who actually wants to become Krishna conscious and get out of this material world. So Prabhupada's story was, I heard him tell it. There was a doctor, Dr. Beecham, and he was British, and he was in India during the Raj. And after Indian independence, he came back to England. Now, he'd made something. He was a chemist, both, as they say, a chemist for, a pharmacy shop, but he was also a chemist. And he made something called Dr. Beecham's powder. And I guess it was something like Alka-Seltzer. You drop it in a glass of water, and it was just amazing. Got rid of the Bombay blues, Delhi Belly, Mahatma Gandhi's revenge, got rid of that, got rid of haircut, so many things, headaches. It was just fantastic stuff. But somehow or other, it just never took off. It just never found a market. It never, whatever. So the guy continued his little practice, and then India got independence, and he went back to London. He had a little, or in whatever his little village was, somewhere in the UK. And he had a little shop. And by this time, he's 85 years old. He's an old geezer. And a little old lady toddles into the shop. And she says to him, I used to be in India, and I used to get a product called Dr. Beecham's powder. I can't find it anywhere. Now, this is Dr. Beecham behind the counter. He said, and, it's just the best thing I ever took in my life. Puts pep in your step, glide in your stride, new lease on life. Can you sell Dr. Beecham's powder? And Prabhupada said the old man was so elated to find someone who actually appreciated his product, he dropped dead of a heart attack. That's Prabhupada's story. So Prabhupada said, we should just to find one person. Prabhupada said that he was prepared to come to America. He said if he could find one person, he was willing to sit under a tree and teach that person everything. So it is a very wonderful thing that Bhakti Alex has moved into the temple and Bhakti Glenn has moved into the temple. There was a play and you can hear the tapes. Prabhupada, and I think it's some famous Bengali play. Maybe you know better than me, Ram. But there was it's the story of it's a play, and it's the Kali Yuga is run amok, controlling everything. Kali and his consort Sin, King Kali, imposter king, and his consort Sin. And they're wreaking havoc, and they're taking over the world. This is the play, and Prabhupada's narrating it to Hayagriva. Actually, the devotees used to put this on sometimes. And so he's just laughing, enjoying, and they're, And then all of a sudden they hear a sound that strikes terror into Kali. Anyone know what that sound is? It's the Harinam, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's, and he says, now we're finished. It's all over. The jig's up. We're going to have to run for cover because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan movement is like when there's darkness and then all of a sudden the sun comes up, darkness or fog is dissipated. So there's another from the Mahabharata. It's described It's a whole story, but the short end of the thing is that Arjuna's weapons were stolen and hidden. So at the beginning of battlefield of Kurukshetra, or certainly in the lead up to it, Arjuna was not on the field. So the Kurus were feeling very confident, and the Pandavas, so he's like with one hand tied behind your back, they don't have Arjuna, so because he didn't have his weapons. And it's a whole story, but he gets his weapons back. They were being hidden, they were wrapped up in cloth and hidden in a tree, and he manages to get them back. And he strings his bow just to test it out. Twang! And he describes the sound, it was such a mystical, the Gandiva bow, that it traveled all the way to the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and everything stopped. And they heard the sound, they all said, Gandiva. Because they knew Arjuna was back on the field, and, the Kurus, all of a sudden, the dynamic had changed, So when someone moves into the temple, you get a nice, especially nice, intelligent, energetic young men. It's just, Kali has gotten a shock that, oh no, we've got some new fighters on the field and I'm in trouble. So thank you very much, Prabhu. It's an auspicious thing, most auspicious. Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Gopijana Balava Girivanadari Gopijana Balava Girivanadari Jasoranandana Vijayanaranjana Jasoranandana Vijayanaranjana Jamunatiravanatari Jamuna Tiravanatari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Gopijana Balava Girivanadari Jasoranandana Vijayanaranjana Jamuna Tiravanatari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Priya Vijayakacharya Siddhi Shishmani Divine Grace of Ajadan Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON BBD Founder Charge Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki. Ananda Karavaishya Brinda Ki. Nam Char Shlahaidas Thakur Ki. Prem Shri Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shivasari Go Bhakti Brinda Ki. Say Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki. Vrindavandam Ki. Paturadam Ki. Dwarkadam Ki. Navadivdam Ki. Jagannapuridam Ki. Chamunamaya Ki. Gangamaya Ki. Tulsi Maharani Ki. Bhakti Devi Ki. Samveda Bhakti Vinda Ki. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Say Siddhara Giridhara Ki. Shri Krishna Sankirtana Jaga Ki. Go Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Divine Lotus Sita, Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Krishna Svedamo Bhagate Dhammaganadi Bisaha Kalauna Sadasham Mesha Parano Kodadodita Narayana Namaskritcha Naram Chaivam Narotama Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat. Narayana Namaskritcha. Did I say that already? Yeah. Okay. Hold on a second. The Bhagavatam is as brilliant as the sun, is arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied with knowledge, religion, etc. Persons who have lost their visions with dense darkness at the age of Kali shall get light out of this Purana. Before beginning our study of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a very means of conquest, we should first offer our respects to the personality of God in Narayan, the Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, the goddess of living Mother Saraswati, and the author Srila Vyasadeva, and my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada. So we are in the fourth canto, chapter 25, verse 9. And Narada Muni is just about to launch into the story of Paranjana. We're just at the first beginning of that. Atra te katayishye mam ithasam Paratanam Paranjanasya Charitam Niboda Gadato Mama Atrite Kathayaishe Mam Itahasam Paratamantanam Paranjanasya Charitam Niboda Gadatu Mama Atrite Katayishye Mam Itihasam Paratanam Paranjanasya Charitam Niboda Gadatu Mama Atrite Katayishye Yam Itihasam Paratanam Paranjanasya Charitam Niboda Gatato Mama Te Gatatishyanam Itihasam Paratanam Paranjanasya Charitam Itihasam Pratanam Paranjanasya Paranjanasya charitam Nibodhagatato mama Vaishnavi. Oh, can you see? Atte katayishe mam Idasam paratmanam Paranjanasya charitam Nibodhagatatom Atra herewith Te unto you Katayishye I shall speak Amam on this subject Itihasam history Paratanam very old Paranjanasya in the matter of Paranjana Charitam his character Nibodha try to understand Gadatam mama while I am speaking. In this connection, this is Narada Muni speaking. In this connection, I wish to narrate. And who is listening? Who's he speaking to? Yeah, King Prachini who's engaged in all kinds of fruitive activities and really into being a king and running his kingdom and enjoying and, you know. But because they're Vedic, he's got some idea of, all right, what's going on here. In this connection, I wish to narrate an old history connected to the character of a king called Paranjana. Please try to hear me with great attention. Also, you say, in this connection, I wish to narrate an old history connected with the character of a king called Paranjana. Please try to hear me with great attention. Purport. The great sage Narada Muni turned to another topic, the history of King Paranjana. This is nothing but the history of King Prachini told in a different way. In other words, it is an allegorical presentation. The word Paranjana means one who enjoys the body. We'll give, like when you get a play, you get the, you know, who the different actors are and a little bit of history, you know, who the different characters in the play. So a little later on, the characters, and there's the queen, there's the city of 9 gates, there's the serpent with 5 hoods who's protecting it, there's Chandravega with his 360 soldiers attacking. So we'll lay out what that is. It's a very blissful. The word Paranjana means one who enjoys the body. This is clearly explained in the next few chapters. Because a person entangled in material activities wants to hear stories of material activities, Narada Muni turned to the topics of King Paranjana. Just like I was saying, everything's there in the Bhagavatam. People like adventure, romance, drama. You got to have a good villain. It's not a bona fide story unless you got to have a good villain. You got to have a hero and an anti-hero. Then you've got the tension between the two, you know. And those are all there, and everything's there in the Bhagavatam. Not only is everything there in the Bhagavatam, but it's all perfect Sanskrit language. And it's all meter and rhymes. I mean, it's just the fun. They have the Iliad and the Odyssey. They have, you know, Shakespeare, whatever it is. These are considered, you know, just the apex of literature. But people who actually know about the Bhagavatam, they just stop short. Well, nothing touches the base. It really is the Amala Purana, even for mundane scholars. Okay. Where were we? One who's a person, because a person entangled in material activities wants to hear stories of material activities, Narada Muni turned to the topics of King Paranjana, who is none other than King Prachini Barashat. Narada Muni did not directly deprecate the value of performing sacrifices in which animals are sacrificed. Lord Buddha, however, directly rejected all sacrifices, all animal sacrifices. Srila Jayadev Goswami has stated, Nindasi yagyavider aha shruti jatam. The word shruti jatam indicates that in the Vedas, animal sacrifice is recommended. But Lord Buddha directly denied Vedic authority in order to stop animal sacrifice. Consequently, Lord Buddha is not accepted by followers of the Vedas. Because he does not accept the authority of the Vedas, Lord Buddha is depicted as an agnostic or atheist. Prabhupada also tells it sometimes in another way, and you find it also by Jiva Goswami, that because the people have become very atheistic, and we're not interested in hearing anything about Shastra, anything about there being God. So Buddha comes and says, no, there's no God, there's no soul, there's no, forget the Vedas, just follow me. So, in other words, in order to trick just like Lord Chaitanya took sannyas to get the sannyasis, Mayavad sannyasis, to offer respects. So Krishna's transcendently clever. So don't worship God, just worship me. Of course, I'm God, as Buddha. So Krishna says in the Gita, of gamblers I'm the cheat. So you really can't, like if you're playing chess with a grandmaster, you may be good in playing in your park or against your brother or whatever it is, but, he's already, by your first move, he already knows exactly what he's going to do and how he's going to box in and take your queen and how, it's going to be over in 5 moves. He already knows. And you're thinking, what's my strategy? So we're up against Krishna, Another angle is if I'm down and looking up a hill, I can only see the bushes and trees right in front of me. I can't see much. But if I'm at the top of the hill looking down, I can see the whole view. So we're down, it's conditioned souls with our tiny, 3D vision or whatever it is. What can we actually see? As Prabhupada points out, you can't even see what's on the other side of the wall. But Krishna, who's the cause of all causes, knows all things. He can see the whole picture since time immemorial and beforehand. So what do we know? What's good? What's right? What I want? What do we know? So, although we think we do, where was I? The great sage. You got a good mind. Oh, you're looking. You got a good screen. The great sage in Kali Yuga, that qualifies. The great sage Narada cannot decry the authority of the Vedas. But he wanted to indicate to King Prachinibarhishat that the path of karma kanda is very difficult and risky. Just like Krishna, he lays out in the Gita all the karma jnana, what is that path? What is the path of yoga? What is of jnana? He lays it all out. But then he explains, just like it says here, they're very risky. We're going to get in that in a minute. They're very risky and difficult to execute. And your success is temporary and not guaranteed. So Krishna doesn't deprecate. They serve their purpose. But one who's smart goes to the essence of the thing. Anyone know Prabhupada's example? If I want to get to the top of a building, that's a big hint. Anyone know Prabhupada's example? There's what are the 2 options? I suppose you could call 1,000 pigeons by mantra and they would carry you. But within the normal frame of things, if I want to get to the top of the building, what are my 2 options? What is one option? Stairs. Okay, what's the other option? Now, suppose how many stories in the Empire State Building? How many floors? Anyone know? It's over 100. And there's that, whatever. There's some buildings taller than that now. But let's be conservative. Bhakti Alex, if you wanted to get to the top of the Empire State Building, are you going to take the staircase or are you going to take the elevator? You're a good man. Why? Yeah, and what are the... Jeez, man, you're going to walk up 100. Maybe you could do it. I could make 2-3 steps and forget it. I'm done, Probably have a heart attack. So one who's intelligent, what's the fastest, quickest way? That's bhakti. Prabhupada says if I'm trying to drive in suppose I've got a stake, and I'm trying to drive it, not stake, not S-T-A-K-E, not an edible steak, but a stake. If I'm trying to drive it into the ground, I can have a little ball-peen hammer, ding, 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 ding. I'm going to be there a long time. What's the best thing? Yeah, I come in there with a sledgehammer, it's done, So this is, what's another example Prabhupada gives? I have so many $10 problems. What do I need? I got $1 million, $100, whatever. It takes care of all the problems. So these are different analogies. Actually, they come from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Okay. 102 stories. Thank you very much. Google ki jai. Foolish persons accept the difficult path of karma kanda for the sake of sense enjoyment. And those who are too attached to sense enjoyment are called mudas, or rascals. It is very difficult for a mudha to understand the ultimate goal of life. In the propagation of Krishna consciousness movement, we actually see that many people are not attracted because they are mudhas engaged in fruitive activity. This, it is said, upadesho himukanam prakopayana santaye. If good instructions are given to a foolish rascal, he simply becomes angry and turns against the instruction instead of taking advantage of them. Because Narada Muni knew this very well, he indirectly instructed the king by giving him the history of his entire life. It is in order to wear gold or a diamond nose pin or earring, one has to pierce the ear or nose. Such pain endured for the sake of sense gratification is endured on the path of karma kanda, the path of fruitive activity. If one wishes to enjoy something in the future, he has to endure trouble in the present. If one wants to become a millionaire in the future and enjoy his riches, he has to work very hard at the present moment in order to accumulate money. This is karma kanda. Those who are too much attached to such a path undergo risk anyway. Narada Muni wanted to show King Pachini Barashat how one undergoes great trouble and miseries in order to engage in fruitive activities. Balaram was reading yesterday where they have the animals with the iron horns just waiting until you're done, to pierce you. No fun at all. Anyway, so many things. And just as a sidelight, if you doubt these things, we don't have time now, but I can tell you at some other point, and some of you may know the story about Mr. Prakash, who actually saw the Yamadutas coming for him and was saved by the Vishnu. He was saved by remembering Radha Giridhari. That's a fact. There was a girl, and I've said it before, but I'll say it again. We were distributing 6th canto of the Bhagavatam first volume. It was in several volumes then. And on the back of the book was the picture of the Yamadutas ripping out a Jamil. Now, it was a tough book to sell, but I'll just tell you, because people read the front. Okay, I think there was a picture of Lord Shiva. I forget what's on the front. Anyway, in those days, it was very beautiful. Okay, they're interested. Then naturally they flip over the back of the book. Whoa, So we were trying to sell it. Not having a good day, and of course every day in Krishna consciousness is a good day. But I remember giving this is a University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. I gave it to this young girl. Young girl means 20 years old, something like that. So I gave her the book. I waited for her to turn it over and step back and give it back to me. It was the thing. She looked at the back cover, turned white as a sheet, and said, "What does this mean? Please explain this to me." So I was a little surprised. I said, "Sure, but tell me why you're interested." I wanted to. Turns out she was a nurse in what they called it the critical care, which is where they, if you're in the hospital and there's not much they can really do for you, they just kind of warehouse you there until you shuffle off the mortal coil. So that was her wing. That's where she worked. And she said the nurses had because there was a phenomena that was so regular, happened so many times that they had a name for it. They called it hearing the voices. And they've got 12 beds, 12 rooms in the whatever it was. I'm just picking a number, but something like that. 12 beds in that critical care, and people are they got to move people out, they got to move people in, they got to manage the beds and who go. So the nurses are talking. I've got somebody up in the heart, whatever, cardiac, and, we need them, move them in here, and, but the bed. So they would say, "Oh, don't worry, room number 14, they're hearing the voices. They'll be gone in no time." It became a management, when they were hearing the voices. And she described to me what those voices, people in their deathbeds with dogs, chains, whips, horrible people with teeth, "We're coming for you, we're coming for you." Now they thought, well, it's a reaction to the the painkillers, or it's there's a lack of oxygen to the brain. They're hallucinating. They had all their different theories. But this girl was smart. And she became an initiated devotee ultimately. Bought the Bhagavatam. Her name was Gopala Shapri, and is married to Damodar in New Vrindavan, and was a book distributor for many, many years. So again, not everybody, very few people, but those who understand. But this is a real thing. It's not just, it's a measurable phenomena. Okay, how did we get off on that? Where was I? Narada Muni indirectly indicated through the story of King Puranjana that eating, sleeping, mating, and defending are troublesome and risky. I guess that's where we left off. The word itihasam, history, and paratanam, old, indicate that although a living entity lives within the material body, the history of the living entity within that material body is very old. In this regard, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has sung Anadi Karama Pale Padi Bhavendra Jale. You know this one? You want to say it, Ram? And you know the rest? Okay, that'll do. Due to my past activities, fruit of activities, I've fallen into the water of material existence, and I cannot find any way to get out of it. End quote. Every living entity is suffering in the material existence from past activities. Therefore, everyone has a very old history. Foolish material scientists have manufactured their own theories of evolution, which are simply concerned with the material body. But actually, that is not the real evolution. The real evolution is the history of the living entity who is Puranjana, living within the body. Sri Narada Muni will explain this evolutionary theory in a different way for the understanding of sane persons. Om Aganata Mrandasya Gyana Gana Salakaya Jakshushimadatangyana Tazare Shri Gurave Namaha. By the way, about evolution, Prabhupada had a few sharp comments about that. Prabhupada said that, you know what the missing link, according to Prabhupada, is? Prabhupada said, my foot in your face. Prabhupada said, what evolution? You're still monkeys. You're still acting like monkeys. I heard Prabhupada say one time, he said, your ancestors may be monkeys. He said, but my ancestors are the great sages of India. So we're not too impressed by that. Anyway, that's a whole other class. I mean, there's so many flaws in the evolutionary theory. It's a very old story, the story of the living entity trying to enjoy in this world. And guess what? It does not end well. It's the same old story. What is it? Chewing the chewed. You know Prabhupada's example of the chewing the chewed? That you chew all the juice out of the sugar cane and spit it out, and then someone comes along and tries to, maybe there's some more juice left in it. It's like, you find bubble gum stuck under the table, and you pry it up and think, oh, let me give it a chaw here, see if there's a little something left in it, It's actually nasty. But that's our condition. There's nothing. It's the same old story. What is that? They say been there, done that. We've done it. You think, oh, if only I was married to some beautiful girl, I'd be so happy. If only I had an apartment on Park Avenue, I'd be so happy. Whatever we're thinking. Well, forget that. You've been Indra. You've been Brahma. You've had it all. What to speak of, being a worm and stool or no arms and no legs playing a harmonica in Calcutta. So we've done it again and again and again and again and again, and it hasn't gotten us anywhere. So should we do it again? What do you think? Prabhupada says, because it's this dream of enjoyment. Prabhupada says that suppose, and there is some, we don't discount it, there is some enjoyment, not much, and when compared to spiritual enjoyment, how much can you eat? It's limited, but the tongue, how much can I? Don't they used to have in the decadent? Maybe they still do it, but they in Rome, wasn't it in Rome that they used to have? You'd have a huge feast, and they had a room that you went into, and you gagged yourself and threw up so you could eat more. People that bulimia, isn't it? Is that bulimia when you do that? When you make yourself? Anorexics do that, or I don't, whatever. But the point is that this was the culture, because they just wanted to. But how much can you fit in your stomach? So you just go and barf, and then of course the acid from the stomach only deadens the tongue, and you can't taste anything. Ha ha ha! You can't cheat. But the point is that been there, done that. And we're going to try, and you're going to try it again? What kind of idiot are you? Oh, that was Prabhupada's example. Suppose there's a feast, and somebody invites you to your house, says, come on over, and you come on over, and you see that, so we don't discount that there's some happiness. That was the point I was trying to make. We don't discount that there's some it's paltry, petty, putrid, temporary, pernicious, picayune, so many different. But anyway, there's a little something there. There's a drop in the desert. But Prabhupada said, suppose I invite you to my house. And you come, you knock on the door opens, and you see a table. And everything, whatever you're dreaming of now, visions of sugar plums dancing in your head, whatever it is, samosas, gulab jamuns, it's all there on the table. Fantastic. But Prabhupada says, but behind the door is a man with a stick who's going to beat you in the head as soon as you finish eating. Do you think, well, hey, I'll have a good meal. I'll come on in. Will you walk into such a house where you're going to have a feast and then get beaten in the head? Who does that kind of thing? Well, Prabhupada says here, mudas, fools, rascals, people who don't think. I saw a t-shirt the other day, I've mentioned it before, but it said, there's no fixing stupid. Have you ever seen that? And I mean, when I walked in, there's a devotee, very nice devotee. His name is Nrsimha Krishna, and he's in charge of the yatra in Turkey. And he's a Muslim, raised a Muslim, and many good things in Muslim tradition, believe it or not. And he said, but reading Prabhupada's books was extremely painful for him. He thought he was a pious, nice guy, good Muslim. It's all going to work out great. He said he got Prabhupada's Gita. He said he was getting punched in the nose. The left, every time he opened it up, it was like he opened it up. It was pop-up books. Boom, you get punched in the nose. Oh, jeez, I got to change this. I got to change that. I guess I'm not the great person I thought I was. And even if I think, hey, I'm great, I'm handsome, but punch. How long's it going to last? You fool. So. I remember one of the first lectures I went to. I mean, I read it in the books, but when you heard Prabhupada explain it, the whole lecture was on dogs, hogs, camels, and asses. Jeez. Prabhupada was heavy. Because that's the job. I was thinking about the other day, like in the movies, the person is just gone, they just panicked. Ah! And somebody gives them a good snap out of it. And the person says, oh, thanks, I needed that. You ever seen that in the old movies? So the person's panicked, they throw a bucket of water. Oh, and they cooled. Oh, jeez, I needed that. Well, so the Bhagavatam and the words of that, we're just completely intoxicated. Janmaishvarya Shruti Shibir. The nice birth, material opulence, Janmaishvarya Shruti, some good education, Shri, beautiful. It's an intoxication, and we're completely intoxicated. My parents had a party. And there was, I remember this day, Mr. Shackford. Mr. Shackford got completely drunk, fell off the balcony into the rose garden. It's a true story, so came back in, hey, everything's fine. Oh, geez, how you doing? Oh, everything's fine, no problem. How did he feel the next morning when the intoxication wore off? Oh, Mr. Shackford was in bad shape. He was all banged up, bruised, couldn't move for 3 weeks, black and blue with thorns, but in his intoxicated state, everything's great, no problem. So Janmaishvarya Shruti Shibir, and here it's saying that Sumedasa, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the previous acharya, what does Sumedasa mean? Sumedasa. Good, but auspicious, good, clear, auspicious, and not just, because all kinds of smart people. Bill Gates is smart. Who's that? I don't want to, because he won't know about me, but who's that guy? Facebook guy? Yeah, he's super smart, but he is one tough guy. He's like Pac-Man. If he could gobble up the world, he'd be happy. A lot of these titans at the top, they're like that. They are. Steve Jobs, that guy was a heavy, heavy guy. He was not a happy person, and he was not a nice person. He was not, we're freeing the world with computers. He was trying to shake as much money. They call it the walled garden. Once you get in, you can't, they got you. Got to have Apple everything. You can't sneeze. So anyway, but the point is that, well, I do want to, I guess we're almost over time, aren't we? Let us say this. I was saying back to Alex, Prabhupada tells a story, and it's from Padma Purana. There's a farmer working in the field, and it's hot, and he's got bending over, putting the plants in, pulling out the weeds. It's hard work. Farming's, hard work. As it says here, you remind me about pain and hard work. So the farmer's thinking, geez, this is tough. And what is the result? I get some grains, and then I go to the grain merchant. He haggles me about the price. His scales, or he's got his thumb on the scales. It just sucks. If only I could. He's indoor, AC, no heavy lifting. If only I could be the grain merchant, I'd be so happy. So the farmer's thinking, if only I was the grain merchant. Now, what's the grain merchant thinking? Grain merchants think, all day long I got to hassle with these farmers. They give me, it looks like good basmati rice on the, but actually it turns out it's, something funky at the bottom of the bag, and says it's a, 20 kilo bag, but it's only 18 kilo. They're all trying to cheat me. And what's the use? The king's tax man comes and takes all my profit as taxes. Jeez, if only I was the tax man, I'd be so happy. Now, what is the tax man thinking? The tax man's thinking, nobody likes me. I knock on the door. I'm stopping by to see somebody just as a friendly visit. Nobody's home. Blind. We used to call that a drive away, a blackout, a brownout. You're a salesman. You knock on the door. The curtains pull. The front porch light goes off. They hear them all. The back door slams. They're all going over the fence. Tax man. He sits down at a wedding. Everybody moves. He's thinking, jeez, I'm losing my reputation. And what's the result? I got to give everything to the king. So the tax man's thinking, if only I was the king. But this is the last one. Now, what is the king thinking? What is it? Heavy weighs the head that wears the crown. So, it's tough being a king. Everybody's trying to get an angle on you. You got envious people trying to cheat you. You've got, princes that want to, have a coup and assassinate you. You got to, the enemy's going to attack. And if you're a good king, you got to save a stock for a lean year to take care of the citizens. It's not easy. Akbar, Maharaja Akbar, in Vedic times, at the same time as Rupa Goswami, Jiva Goswami, free education, public lighting, sewer system, and no one went hungry in the kingdom. If somebody went hungry and it went all the way down, governor, the district, the mayor, you had to fast. If you were the mayor of a city and somebody in your city was hungry, you had to fast till they were fed. That was the rule. Now we've got, in the White House, they're having, 30-course state dinners, and 3 blocks away you got little old ladies cutting their pills in half because they can't afford to buy enough food. Now you tell me, are we in Kali Yuga or not, How did we get off on that? So the king, thank you very much. The king, at least someone's attentive. The king, he's got all these heavy burdens on him. He's looking out his window, and he sees the farmer in the field, the birds are tweeting, it's fresh, everything's, look at that guy, without a care in the world. If only I could be the farmer. So everybody's thinking the guy next to them or the person next to them is having a great time, but nobody's having a great time. So here it describes everybody is experiencing pain. You want to make a million, Prabhupada says, you want to make millions of dollars? You got to work hard. You want to be a movie star? Plastic surgery, new fronts on your teeth, work as a waiter so you can have time to go to, pay for your acting school. And how many of you are actually going to make it? 1 in a million. So everything requires, if you surf, it's freezing cold water. The surf blows out. Shark lops off your leg. There's a lot going on out there, you know. You can drown, get cancer later on, your golden bronze body, and then later on, you know, by the time you're 60, you're rotten from skin cancer. I mean, nobody gets out of it. So, if there's sometimes, and then we're going to end here, yes, sometimes being a devotee is hard work. It talks here about austerity. There is some tapasya to get up early in the morning it's not easy. You know, I want to eat a damn thing. Of course, taking prasadam is not really a hardship, but you know, maybe you want to go have a Mars bar. I don't know what people got on their mind, you know, Coca-Cola, glug, 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 you know. No, we don't do that. We don't eat outside things, you know. Geez, what to speak of, you know, you got to be celibate or at least, you know, be a grihasta. And, you know, that's different. But there's going to be pain in everything. That's the point. So are we we'll end here, I promise. Are we going to be like Paranjana? It's an old story. It's the same story. It always ends the same way, and it's not a happy ending. And we're going round and around and around. Or are we going to be intelligent? Sumedasa. If I have to accept pain anyway, why not accept pain in the right course of action? Why not difficultly? That's the problem. We had a guy from Arkansas, Dr. Northcraft. I've mentioned some of Dr. Northcraft's sayings. And we had a devotee who was saying, oh, if only I'd done this, if only, you know, I hadn't stayed in New Vrindavan, if only I'd married this other girl, you know, she was a nice devotee, you know, if only, you know, whatever it is. If only I'd done this. So Dr. Northcraft was a very nice man, was sitting there listening to it. And he's from Arkansas, and in his Ozarks drawl, he said, you know, son, there's more than one way to be wrong. What is the purport of that? More than one way to be wrong. The grass is always greener on the other side of the fence. This is the nature of the mind. We're always thinking, well, if I just had this, or if I was just there. No. Suffering is baked into the material world. So if I'm going to suffer, if I'm going to have to struggle, if I'm going to have to man up now and again and say, no, armed with yoga, stand and fight, then let me do, because they're also, no, I'm going to get through college, I'm going to get that doctor's degree, you know, medical degree. No, I'm going to get my business at the top. No, I'm going to become a star, you know. Everybody's got to, you know, have some backbone. So if I'm going to man up, if I'm going to have a backbone, if I'm going to have to accept some pain, let me accept it in something that comes to the right conclusion that ends the whole thing. That is pure devotional service. So that's what's being explained here by Narada Muni. And we're just beginning this blissful story. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. That's good enough. And we're out of time anyway. Thanks for remembering.